And I was like, well, I think I'm going to be fired today. And he's like, no way. No. And I was like, yeah, I really do. And he was like, no. And he shook his head and he emailed me later to say, let me know who I can talk to, what I can do. Like, this can't happen. But it did.
My name is Jerry Zaire. Today, my guest is Elizabeth Diop. Last week on Sacred Rebel Voices, I spoke with Ayman Soliman, who is a Muslim chaplain at Children's Hospital in Cincinnati, Ohio. He was a refugee from Egypt who was detained by ICE while serving there at the hospital. Elizabeth is a Christian chaplain who worked alongside Ayman and who chose to stand with him publicly during that time. What followed changed her life in a way that she never expected. Welcome, Elizabeth. Thank you for being here with me today.
You can call me Lizzie.
Are you there?
Ayman and I did work at Children's together, and we had collaborated on some cases. I worked in residential psychiatry and inpatient psychiatry, and we had actually taken 2 of our kids to the mosque for Eid, and he helped with that beautifully and welcomed them like honored guests and just had a tremendous evening plan for them. So we'd worked off and on fairly closely over the 4 years that he was at Children's. But then in early July, we all got a text or a message from our boss telling us to meet for an emergency meeting. And we went to our office building and we were told that Ayman had been detained by ICE. And it was just like a gut punch. It was a horrible feeling among all of us. We were weirdly both shocked and unsurprised because he had lost his asylum status and had been off work actually for a couple of months. But we immediately launched into how we would respond, and we decided that we would have a rally, that we would join the press conference they were doing at the Butler County Detention Center. So several of us left work at that point and went to this press conference together, along with many other multi-faith, interfaith people, to show solidarity and support for Ayman. And I knew that this moment called for us to do everything that we could for Ayman because we were aware he'd made it very clear that getting sent back to Egypt would mean that he would be likely tortured and very likely executed. So we knew this was a life and death situation. So at that press conference, I agreed to write an open letter for clergy to sign, to give, to raise awareness and gain support for Ayman. And I think that was the beginning of my more intense involvement. And Ayman then invited me to be one of his visitors at the detention center, and he had a limited number of visitors. So that Sunday, I went and you go to the jail and you wait in line, and there are so many families desperate to see their mostly immigrant loved ones, and presented my identification along with a rabbi friend of ours, and Ayman's good friend who's a Muslim who worships with him at the mosque. And we got to see him. And it was amazing to hear how he was doing and the ways that God was using his detention to bring love and light to that space. And I left. And that was Sunday. Monday morning, I got contacted by a local news organization asking if they could do an interview with me about meeting with Ayman. And I was with my manager, my director was nearby, and they instructed me to make sure I didn't wear my badge, take PTO. And I did those things, and I went and I did the interview somewhere near the campus of Children's. And my main hope with that is to fulfill what Ayman had asked, which is to say my name and tell people about this injustice that's happening. And in our view, anything we could do to elevate that, to put all eyes on him, it was more likely that the law would actually be followed and he would be safe. Sorry, Jerry, go ahead.
No, but you had no idea, or you didn't think you would get fired by doing this at that time, did you?
I don't think my lawyer would want me to talk a whole lot about that, but
Okay.
but I did not um, my primary concern was to do what was right. And in that moment, I did exactly what I felt was right. The consequences were very much a less concern for me because the consequence for Iman, no matter what, will be so much worse than anything I could be facing.
Wow. So what happened though after you did that interview?
The interview went really well. I had several people express gratitude for it, and to thank me for doing that. Um, the next morning, I went back into work, and I was told that I was facing disciplinary action up to and including termination. I want to be clear. I'm a chaplain. I'm a Christian minister, and I'm a chaplain. And I'd worked for about 10 years at Children's, about 8 of those as the full-time staff chaplain in psychiatry, which was my dream. My passion is working with traumatized and mentally ill kids and providing spiritual care for them. So the idea that I could be facing termination, it was the most afraid I think I've ever been in my life. And the idea was you're facing this, HR will get back to you and keep working. So that's all I could do is hold this reality in my mind and continue to do my job as well as I could and wait for the act to fall.
Wow, I mean, I just think that's that had to be a very tough time when, I mean, you have 5 children, you're really the breadwinner in the family, and then you hear that you were fired, right?
Ali and I, like, we split the expenses, and there's no way that either of us could do it without the other. So yes, me going without my pay means my children don't have housing. Me going without our pay means our children don't have insurance. So that I think it was Monday, I took PTO because I thought I would probably get fired, and I cleared out my office. I talked to my therapist. I made a plan for if I got fired. And then I was at Goodwill, just like doom shopping, and I got a notification from my boss asking if I could meet with HR. So I went to my car, and in a parking lot of a grocery store, I think, I opened up Zoom, and I was told the decision had been made to terminate me. And I was told this by HR representative was there, but so are my manager and my director, who are 2 of the people I respect and love most in the world. So it was like the floor had fallen out from under me. I was so devastated. A friend came with me, and she went into a gas station to get a drink, and I sat on the curb, and I must have looked so wrong that somebody actually came up to me to ask if I was okay, because I was just sitting staring at a piece of trash. And Ayman was still in detention. So it's like everything felt wrong. It was like the world had blown up. My world had blown up, his world had blown up, and there we were.
Gosh, I just I can't imagine that feeling and feeling so overwhelmed. What I was amazed in this is you had talked with your husband Ali, and before, you know, in the midst of all this, and I know he was supportive of you, right? And I mean, he said you need to do this if it's the right thing. Tell me a little bit about that conversation.
Um, Ali and I are aligned in our hopes for justice in the world. And he always says, like your family comes before your job. And in this case, I'm in as a member of our family. And so he said, we don't like live to work, we work to live. And in this case, he also knows my heart, and he knows that it would be literally soul crushing to watch something like this happen and not take action. That would be like giving up who I am. And that's unimaginable.
So I know that you did find a new job as a chaplain at hospice, and you know that you came through that. And
Let's rewind from that. We got to rewind.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
good.
after that, it was like both devastating and liberating because we had to get to work at that point. So So me and Adam being off work meant that we had all of these hours a week to dedicate solely to procuring Ayman's freedom. And we did everything possibly that we could, from like open letters to talking to news media to planning like rallies to doing talk art with his name to doing justice sing-alongs and handing out QR codes with his story. Um, I we partnered with Ignite Peace, with Undivided, with the Council of America Islamic Relations. I mean, there were lots of people working together. And in the meantime, I got to meet with Ayman every Sunday to talk about how he was doing and what was going on. And I also think it was really cool that he got to see some of the news media and see how he was being represented and how his story was being told.
So I guess, though, I think some people maybe are listening, and one of the questions is, why would you do all this? Why would you put your life, your family to risk? What was that? What's your core value, and where does that come from that why were you willing to do all this?
I grew up in the Christian Church Disciples of Christ. And one of our like largest, I don't know what you call it, like mottos, mission statements, I forget which one it is, but it's a movement for wholeness in a fragmented world. There's that piece. And I was very young when I heard the Micah scripture, which I pray with my kids every night. I pray that we will be a family that does justice, loves kindness, and walks humbly with God. So that is like part of the heart of who I am as a human being and who I feel God has called me to be. And it's something that I'm trying to teach my children is important. So in this case, it's very clear that an injustice is happening, and it's very clear that I can have a part of righting that injustice, and that I must do everything that I can to right that injustice. And I believe that we work in relationship, and I'm into somebody that I care deeply about and love, and I feel like those relationships are blessed by God, and that God calls us to take care of each other. And I knew that Ayman will be killed. And how could I look at myself in the mirror ever if I didn't do everything? How could I live with myself knowing that I was too scared to do something that would save somebody's life?
And I think that's, commendable. I think that's powerful. And I wish more people had that courage. But, a lot of people would go, yeah, I agree, but man, I don't think I have the courage to do that. I don't think I could take that step of risk. What would you say to them? I mean, how to encourage them, I guess.
I'm not sure how nitty-gritty we want to get, but in process theology, which we don't need to talk about, we have this moment. And in this moment, there are these choices that we can make. And I believe through prayer, I determine what step I'm going to take here. So it's not as though the moment I found out Ayman was detained, I imagined a future where I didn't have a job. No, it was Ayman is detained in this moment. What are the things I can do? Oh, I can go to this press conference. I'm at the press conference. What is the thing I can do now? Oh, I can write a letter. I don't know what an open letter is, but I'm a good writer. I can write one. In this moment, I'm visiting Ayman. How can I love him? And so it's like every choice, what is the choice that orients closest towards what God has called for us to be in the world? And I think part of it does have to be a little bit of willing ignorance. We can't focus too much on everything that could go wrong. It's more focusing on what is the call and what is the best possibility for a better next step.
Yeah, I hear that there's a sense of trusting in God, in your relationship with God and the divine. You take the step, you pray about it, you feel like this is the right step to take to be true to yourself, and not worry about what the next step is, or you just trying to be true to yourself as you live your life.
And recognizing, that we have gifts, and finding ways to use those gifts. So maybe somebody else isn't. I mean, like I I wasn't scared to talk to a news reporter. I'm not scared to talk to like the texting back and forth with the reporter from the Guardian, from Rolling Stone. And so I can use that. I can speak to them, and it's natural for me, right? It's a part of alignment with my gifts. Somebody else somebody else, wrote a lot of letters, made calls to politicians. I hate calling politicians, but I've got friends that have them on speed dial nonstop. And so they're going to use that giftedness. And so I think part of it too is trusting that your giftedness has a space in the healing of the world, and that you're not called to do all things. You're called to do the things that you've been equipped to do.
Yeah, I think that's really a good point for people to realize. To be a sacred rebel is about just being willing to challenge the institutions or things that you think are wrong and the injustice, and to do it in your own way, to find your way. It doesn't have to be other people. It doesn't have to be a big way, but so you don't lose your soul. Because I remember you talked about that a little bit about, if you hadn't done that, it would almost be like you lost your soul. I can't quite remember how you phrased that, but you remember that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I said that um that it's soul crushing. It's soul crushing to um
But if you didn't do it, you would have felt like you sold out to yourself or something.
oh yeah, absolutely. If I wouldn't have, I mean, I thought about that. It's like if if I had done nothing, right? And Ayman was sent to Egypt and killed, his blood, in my opinion, would have been on my hands. Not all on my hands, but I would have been among the people who bore responsibility for that. And in the same way, if I had done nothing and he'd been freed, and I texted him and said, "Hey, so excited you're free, man. How could you do that? How, how can you ever look him in the face again?" And I know better than that.
And, there are many injustices in the world. And so it's not like, we can't solve all the issues, but because you had relationship with him, because there was a context to it, which is what I think for people to realize, you know, uh, if you feel the sense of, I need to do something, listen to that, honor that. Because if you don't, I think you'll regret it. It's kind of what I hear you saying.
Absolutely. I think you're right. You could get like a mouth in a maze. You could try to do everything and do nothing. If you're looking at every injustice in the world, you could just wear yourself out, accomplish nothing, and doom scroll your life away. There's too much happening to try to focus on everything. But I do think relationship is a special place to begin. It's one of the reasons why I think diverse friendships are so important, because we do find out what are the real impacts of the situations in our society. How are they impacting the people we care about? And that is motivating then to do something. But
Yeah, because if you were isolated, and some people who didn't even know somebody of another faith or another culture, then you see those things happen, and you don't feel any sense of ache for them, any pain for them.
yeah, and you're not motivated in the same way. It's a lot easier when you love somebody.
So the wonderful thing is, and it doesn't always turn out when we try to do our best. There, it doesn't come with a good ending sometimes. But in this way, because of all your not just you, but many people who supported him and had that, the result was he was set free. He was released.
Yeah, after 72 days in detention, which was a nightmare, a traumatizing nightmare. But he was free, and I was in therapy when I got a text from WhatsApp coming across saying Iman's free. And we weren't expecting that. I literally had a banner in my trunk that I was planning to use for our next event. And I didn't believe the text. And I looked at my therapist funny, and I thought there must be some mistake. And as soon as therapy was over, I logged off and checked, and I saw a picture, a picture of him leaving detention. And so I immediately took off. Adam was somewhere else, and he took off to find Ayman. And of course, it was a Friday, so Ayman was at the mosque. That was the first place he went after leaving detention. and I hadn't worn a hijab because I'm Christian. I don't wear a hijab, so I couldn't go into the mosque during prayers. So I stood in the doorway. It must have looked like such a weirdo that the security guard asked if I was okay and offered me water. And as soon as he came out, we went to him, and I mean everybody wanted to go to him, and he and Adam, me, him, and two of our other good friends went out to eat, and he was just ecstatic to get real food for the first time in 72 days. And it was so good to see his smile and hear his voice and know that he was going to be okay.
Wow. I mean, that's just, that's the wonderful part about this is that the sense of community, the sense of relationships, you feel like it does make a difference. And luckily you saw the response of that. And the power of the community.
Oh, the community came, showed up. I mean, like when I made the post about Ayman initially on Facebook, I think it had like 12,000 shares. My TikTok that I made for him had like 400,000 views. There were so many people who wrote letters, reached out to Congress people, who attended events for him, who donated money to his legal defense fund. It was just an incredible community effort. And I got to be this one piece of the fabric, but it wouldn't have happened if all of these people hadn't come together with this singular determination that this is not going to happen on our watch.
Yeah. And gosh, there's so many parts of that so important, I think, for people to realize, where you have a sense of community, where how important that is to be involved, where you're involved in your church and that community, involved in interfaith work, but that for people to find a sense that you're not alone, to be engaging with other people in your life so that you can deal with issues, and like that happened to you. You had a support network, and you had people that were there so that you, as devastated as it was, you felt like, you weren't alone in that. And that's so important, I think.
It's incredibly important.
So what was it? I mean, what was something that you really learned from this, going through this terrible time, this difficult thing, and yet you came through it? And now you look back, what did you learn about yourself in this process?
In a really unhealthy way, probably, but not fully unhealthy. My job was my life. I was a psych chaplain and I was a mom. And I identified so much with my role as a psych chaplain. And I honestly, before this, had the thought if I lost my job, it would kill me. I had poured. One time a coworker said, "You give so much at work, I'm not sure that you have anything left when you get home." And this experience did help me see that that my job is important, but it's not the whole of my identity, and that there are things more important than where I do my ministry.
So, I mean, that's a wonderful lesson to realize, I think, for all of us, that we get wrapped up in our career, our identity, and then when that gets taken away from you, you have to find out what and who you are.
The other piece that I learned is that, and I've said this in another writing, that the cost of doing justice is really high. It was a really, really big deal, especially to me, to lose my job after 10 years of just blessed service. But the way the community rallied around me, they did a GoFundMe that was life-changing, that enabled me to make it through this experience without financial devastation. The way that people showed up, it showed me that that we're not alone, that we don't have to be alone in bearing that cost, that we share it with each other. and that there are so many people who can't do exactly the things that I did, but they support what I did by supporting me. And that
And that,
everything.
yeah, and I think that's so important to realize now today with social media, the way it is, if we're willing to share some of our story, if we're willing to be vulnerable, saying, I need help, or I'm going through this, it gives people an opportunity to engage with you. Like the GoFundMe thing was powerful. People, across the nation, some people who you didn't even know responded and supported you, I imagine. And so that's the wonderful thing in today, that we do have that opportunity to galvanize community, to help people. If we're willing to get involved, it can make a powerful impact.
Absolutely. And I was able, it was the beginning of the school year, right? And there's so many expenses, and I was able to not lose my mind trying to figure out how to make this all work. I was able to trust that what we needed was there, and take my time and find another position.
So as we kind of wrap up and come to the end of this time together, what would you want somebody to take away from this for their own life, from your experience and what we've talked about?
Yeah, one of the things that I want people to take away is that it feels like the people doing justice, there's this sense they got it. Like they know what they're doing, they've got it taken care of. I kind of wish them well in our hearts. But there's way more work to do than can be done. And it feels like a huge leap to get involved because we don't know those people. We don't know what we're doing. And all it takes is a single relationship to say, like, what can I do to help? Or what kind of job might you need from me? And get started little by little. And the other thing is listening to where your heart is speaking. So getting overwhelmed by every injustice will just petrify us and will do nothing. But if we have one area that's really speaking to us, take a step towards engaging in the work to address that without trying to do everything. And I think keeping an open heart about your connections to other people will help you see the area that you're called to actually do something about.
That's great. Thank you. I appreciate your sharing this with us, and the witness you have given that I think has inspired many others. And if people want to contact you, I'll put that information in the description of this so that maybe somebody wants to reach out to you. I'm sure you would enjoy that, right?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to. They can catch me on Facebook too. It's an easy place to get a hold of me. I accept any real friend requests from real humans. If you have 100 friends or more, I'll accept your requests.
Okay. Well, thank you for being in this conversation with us today. And if you'd like to be a part of further conversations for the Sacred Rebel Voices, or also I have this Whispers of the Sacred Rebel that are meditations that come weekly. It's 4-minute meditation. You may also subscribe and be a part of that. Keep your heart and your mind open, Sacred Rebel. Thank you.